Welcome back to Only Talk Sports. We talk sports every single day, or at least we try to. I'm Ernst Jeffrey. Subscribe to the channel if you like sports content. Hit that notification bell so you never miss another video. Finally, college basketball is getting what they want. The Indiana versus Kentucky basketball series, one of the best rivalries in college basketball, is finally returning for a four-game series that will begin in the 2025 season. Now, you look at it right there on the screen as John Rothstein has reported. It will be at Rupp Arena in 2025-2026, and then in Lucas Oil Stadium we'll have the game in 2026-2027, which kind of will be an Indiana home game. I wish that it was at Assembly Hall twice instead of it just being at Assembly Hall once, and then it's going to be at Rupp Arena twice, and then one neutral site game. But Lucas Oil Stadium is in Indianapolis, and the Hoosiers probably will have the majority of the fans there, so it's kind of a home game. Rupp Arena will have the game back in 2027, 2028, and then Assembly Hall gets the game in 2028, 2029. But all around, even with the caveat that Assembly Hall is not going to have the game as many times as Rupp Arena will have it, this is needed for college basketball and for these two programs. Because I know a lot of Indiana fans that believe that this is their true rivalry game. A lot of fans in Indiana like the Purdue rivalry, and a lot of them think highly of that rivalry, thinking it's one of the best in college basketball, right behind North Carolina Duke. But most Indiana fans treat this Kentucky game as their true rivalry. And I know a lot of Kentucky fans are the same way. They like treating Louisville as their big in-state rival, just like Indiana does with Purdue. But a lot of Kentucky fans still treat Indiana as their true rival. It's the way that it is. Sometimes your biggest rival doesn't have to be in-state. And Indiana, Kentucky have had some great matchups throughout history. But the last time that these two teams played in the regular season was in 2011 when Indiana beat number one Kentucky for Kentucky's only loss in that season before the Anthony Davis-led Wildcats won the entire thing. Christian Wofford hit a big walk-off three at Assembly Hall, and the Hoosiers were able to upset Kentucky after Indiana had years of being down after their big allegation scandal in the mid-2000s, and Indiana was really struggling. But in that 2011 season is when they started to get things back on track under Tom Crean. And that was a fantastic shot by Christian Wofford and a fantastic win for Indiana. But after that game, and Indiana rushed the court, and maybe they rushed the court a little too hard, but it is understandable Indiana did what they did because the down years that they have prior to that season, and Kentucky was the number one team, and they had loads of NBA talent all over the roster. But after that game, this rivalry ended. For whatever reason, a lot of people talk about John Calipari possibly not wanting to play at Assembly Hall ever again. It's been highly reported that that's the case. The game just ceased. And yes, Indiana, Kentucky have played since then. They played in that NCAA tournament that year with Kentucky getting revenge versus Indiana back in 2012. But then Indiana was able to beat Kentucky in 2016 in the NCAA tournament in the round of 32. But since that year, these two teams have not played. And most people still believe Indiana-Kentucky is one of the best rivalries in college basketball. And yes, we know with all the conference expansion, the conference games are going to become more important than the non-conference games. Still, big non-conference matchups people care about. People like seeing Kansas play Kentucky in basketball, and people like seeing in football USC playing Alabama, games like that. Those are the type matchups people want to see. And a lot of college basketball fans are thrilled, not even just Indiana and Kentucky fans, that this game is returning. And again, for all the reasons that this game ended, at least all of that has been put behind, and Indiana and Kentucky have found a way to let bygones be bygones and now let this game come back. Now, I think a lot of it's because Mike Woodson and John Calipari know each other very well from their NBA days, and they both are pretty friendly toward each other. So that was already a really good sign with the possibility that this game would return. But Mike Woodson and Indiana and John Calipari and Kentucky finally have reached an agreement. We've got this four-game series. It's not perfect. It's not exactly what everyone wants, but at least Assembly Hall is going to be a part of it. I do think an interesting thing about this, though, is that this is years in the future. Mike Woodson's 65 years old, and John Calipari's in his early 60s as well. Will both of these coaches be at Kentucky and Indiana when these games play? I think they will, but by that 2028-2029 game, will Calipari and Mike Woodson still be there? I don't know, because Mike Woodson will be around 70, 71 years old, and John Calipari would have been at Kentucky for almost 20 years, and he'll be in his upper 60s. So it's going to be really interesting to see. But regardless if John Calipari and Mike Woodson are going to still be coaching by the end of this series, I'm glad Indiana, Kentucky is returning. It's a game that needs to be in college basketball. It is one of the best rivalries. It should have never ended. And even though, again, like I said, there was a lot of reasons that it did end for a lot of wrong reasons, all of that is in the past. The future is in front of us, and Indiana and Kentucky will be a game that we're going to be seeing in person for people that go to these games and on TV. It's going to be awesome. And Indiana, Kentucky, after this series is done, I think they need to find a way to continue to play in the future because, like I said before, it is one of the best rivalries in college basketball, and it should have never ended. Subscribe to the channel if you like sports content. Like this video down below. Comment down below what you think about this Indiana versus Kentucky rivalry game series returning and what you think about the fact that it ended and whether you think that it should have never ended. And if you are glad that this series is returning, follow me on Twitter as well. Link is in the description, and I will see you next time.